Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance, looking out at the stars through the main window. The ship had been traveling through space for 3 weeks now, searching for new minerals on distant planets. Jake was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been flying spaceships for 20 years, but he had never seen anything like what was about to happen. The ship was quiet, except for the soft hum of the engines. Lisa Carter, the science officer, sat at her station studying rock samples from the last planet they visited. She was a smart woman who loved learning about new worlds. Danny Rodriguez, the first officer, walked around checking on the crew. He was younger than Jake, but very serious about his job. Karen Bell worked at the communications desk. She had short red hair and always wore a smile. Tony Martinez was in the engine room, making sure everything ran smoothly. He was the best engineer Jake had ever worked with. The rest of the crew went about their daily tasks, not knowing that their lives were about to change forever. Suddenly, Karen's station started beeping loudly. She looked at her screen with wide eyes. "Captain," she said, her voice shaking a little. "I'm getting something strange on the sensors. There's a ship out there, but it's not like anything I've ever seen." Jake walked over to her station. "What do you mean?" "It's huge, sir, much bigger than us, and it's made of some kind of metal that doesn't show up properly on our scanners." Karen pressed some buttons on her computer. "Wait, there's more. I'm counting at least 5 ships now, maybe more." Danny came running to the bridge. "Captain, the engines just shut down by themselves. Tony says he can't get them started again." Jake felt his heart start beating faster. In all his years in space, he had never heard of engines shutting down without warning. "Lisa, what are you seeing on your instruments?" Lisa looked up from her station, her face pale. "Captain, these readings don't make sense. The ships out there are using technology that's way beyond anything we have. Their power sources are giving off energy levels that should be impossible." Before Jake could respond, the main screen in front of them turned on by itself. The crew gathered around to see what was happening. A face appeared on the screen, but it wasn't human. The creature had blue skin that seemed to glow slightly. Its eyes were larger than human eyes and completely black. It had no hair, and its head was shaped differently than a human head. When the creature spoke, its voice came through the ship's speakers in perfect English. "Humans of the vessel Defiance, I am Commander Zektar of the Zephyrian Collective. You will listen carefully to what I have to say." Jake stepped forward. "This is Captain Jake Morrison. We're on a peaceful mission exploring this area of space." The alien's black eyes seemed to look right through him. "Your mission ends now, human. You and all of your kind must leave this region of space immediately. This is not a request, this is a command." "Now wait just a minute," Jake said, feeling angry. "We have every right to be here. This is open space." Commander Zektar's face showed no emotion. "You are wrong. This sector belongs to the Zephyrian Collective. It is our sacred expansion zone. Your presence here pollutes our divine territory. You have contaminated space that was meant for our people alone." Lisa stepped closer to Jake. "Captain, I'm reading at least 20 ships now. They just appeared out of nowhere." The alien commander continued speaking. "You humans will remove all of your ships, space stations, and colonies from this region. You have 30 of your Earth days to complete this task. Any human presence remaining after that time will be destroyed." Danny looked at Jake with worry in his eyes. "Captain, that includes the colonies on New Montana and Harmony Station. There are millions of people living there." Jake felt his anger growing. He had spent his whole life exploring space and meeting new challenges. No one had ever told him where he could and could not go. "Commander Zektar, those are our people living on those worlds. We're not going to just abandon them because you say so." The alien's expression didn't change. "Then you will watch them die. The Zephyrian Collective has spoken. You have been warned." "Hold on there," Jake said, his voice getting louder. "You can't just show up and start making demands. Who do you think you are?" Karen looked at her instruments again. "Captain, I'm getting some kind of energy buildup from their ships." Suddenly, all the lights on the bridge went out. The computers stopped working. Even the air recycling system shut down. The crew stood in complete darkness for several seconds before emergency power came on, filling the bridge with a red glow. Tony's voice came through the communication system from the engine room. "Captain, they did something to us. All of our weapons are dead. The main engines won't start. Even our basic systems are barely working." Commander Zektar's face was still on the main screen, even though everything else had stopped working. "This is a small demonstration of our power. Your weapons cannot harm us. Your shields cannot protect you. Your technology is primitive compared to ours." Jake stared at the alien commander. He had been in dangerous situations before, but nothing like this. The aliens had shut down his entire ship with what seemed like no effort at all. "We could destroy your vessel right now," the commander said. "But we choose to show mercy. Use this time to deliver our message to your leaders. 30 days, human. Remove all of your people from our territory or face the consequences." The screen went black. Slowly, the ship's systems started coming back online. The lights returned to normal. The computers began working again. But everyone on the bridge knew that their lives had just changed forever. Jake looked around at his crew. They were all staring at him, waiting for orders. Karen had tears in her eyes. Danny was shaking his head in disbelief. Lisa was already working at her station, trying to figure out what had just happened. Jake walked over to Karen's station. "Karen, open a channel to Earth Command, Priority 1. "Yes, sir," she said, her fingers flying over the controls. Jake took a deep breath. He thought about all the people living on the colonies in this region of space. He thought about his own family back on Earth. Then he thought about the alien commander's demands and felt his anger return. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the USS Defiance," he said into the microphone. "We have made first contact with an alien species. They're demanding that all humans leave this entire region of space." He paused for a moment, then continued, "And they seem to think we're just going to roll over and do what they say." Jake looked at Karen and smiled for the first time since the aliens had appeared. "Karen, hold my coffee. We need to have a serious talk with the folks back home about what it means to be human." Admiral Pete Johnson sat at the big table in the emergency meeting room on Earth. The room was full of the most important people in the human government. Everyone looked worried and scared. The message from Captain Morrison had reached Earth 3 days ago, and now they had to decide what to do about the alien threat. President Helen Torres walked into the room. She was a strong woman who had led Earth through many difficult times. Her gray hair was pulled back and her face showed she was ready for a fight. Behind her came Dr. Amy Walsh, the smartest person on Earth when it came to studying alien life. Amy had been working day and night to understand the information about the Zephyrian ships. "Ladies and gentlemen," President Torres said as she sat down, "we all know why we're here. These aliens want us to abandon our colonies and run away with our tails between our legs. They think they can scare us because they have better technology." Colonel Rick Barnes stood up. He was a military man who always thought about the safest way to solve problems. "Madam President, we need to look at the facts. Our weapons can't hurt their ships. Their technology is hundreds of years ahead of ours. Maybe we should consider moving our people to safety." Dr. Amy Walsh opened her computer and showed everyone the pictures from the Defiance. "The Colonel is right about their technology. Look at these energy readings. Their ships produce more power than our entire fleet combined. Their weapons could destroy whole planets if they wanted to." Admiral Johnson rubbed his forehead. He had been in the military for 40 years and had never faced anything like this. "How many people are we talking about moving?" 43 million, said General Mary Kim, who was in charge of colonial affairs. 23 colonies, including New Montana with 15 million people, and Harmony Station with 8 million. These aren't just small outposts, these are entire worlds where families have lived for generations. President Torres listened to everyone talk about how impossible the situation was. She watched their faces and saw fear in their eyes. But she also saw something else. She saw anger. Humans didn't like being told what to do, especially by strangers who showed up and made threats. "Dr. Walsh," the president said, "tell me more about these aliens. What do we know about how they think?" Amy looked through her notes. From what Captain Morrison reported, they seem very organized and formal. They called this area their sacred expansion zone and said we were contaminating it. They appear to think they're better than us and that we should just obey their orders without question. So they think we're going to just roll over and play dead, President Torres said with a small smile. Colonel Barnes leaned forward. Madam President, with respect, maybe we should consider their demands. We can't fight them with our current technology. It would be suicide. The President stood up and walked to the window. She looked out at the city below, thinking about all the humans who lived on Earth and on the distant colonies. She thought about her own children and grandchildren. Colonel, she said without turning around, how long would it take these aliens to destroy all our ships if they really wanted to? Based on their demonstrated capabilities, probably less than an hour, he answered. And yet they gave us 30 days, President Torres said. Why do you think that is? Dr. Walsh looked up from her computer. Maybe they want to avoid a fight. Maybe destroying us would cause them problems we don't know about. Admiral Johnson nodded slowly. Or maybe they've never dealt with humans before. Maybe they don't understand what they're asking us to do. President Torres turned back to face the room. Exactly. They don't know us. They think we're just another species that will run away when threatened. They think we'll make the logical choice and retreat to save our lives. She walked back to the table and put her hands on it, looking each person in the eyes. But here's what they don't understand about humans. We don't always make the logical choice. Sometimes we make the human choice. Colonel Barnes looked confused. What do you mean, Madam President? I mean that humans have a long history of doing impossible things when someone tells us we can't do them. When someone says we can't climb a mountain, we climb it. When someone says we can't fly, we build airplanes. When someone says we can't go to space, we build rockets. General Kim was starting to understand. You're not planning to evacuate the colonies. Hell no, President Torres said with a grin. I'm planning to do the exact opposite. If these aliens want to see what happens when you threaten human families and tell us to run away, then we're going to show them. Dr. Walsh looked worried. Madam President, their technology is far superior to ours. How can we possibly fight them? Who said anything about fighting them the way they expect? President Torres asked. They have better weapons and shields, fine. But do they understand human stubbornness? Do they know what it's like to deal with a species that gets more determined when you try to scare them? Admiral Johnson was beginning to smile. You want to call their bluff. I want to do more than that, the President said. I want to show them that humans don't back down. Ever. Even when the smart thing would be to run away. She walked to the front of the room and looked at everyone. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to launch Operation Last Call. Instead of removing our people from the disputed territory, we're going to expand our presence there. Colonel Barnes nearly fell out of his chair. You want to send more people into danger? I want to send a message, President Torres replied. A message that says you don't threaten human families and expect us to just walk away quietly. She turned to Admiral Johnson. Pete, I want every available ship moved into that region, not to fight them, but to show them we're not going anywhere. And if they attack us? The Admiral asked. President Torres smiled in a way that made everyone in the room feel both excited and terrified. Then we'll show them something their advanced technology can't understand. We'll show them what it looks like when humans decide to be human instead of being smart. She looked around the room one more time. Gentlemen, ladies, they clearly don't know who they're messing with. Sometimes you don't fight smart. Sometimes you fight human. Dr. Walsh was already making notes on her computer. What do you need from me? Find me every weakness in their technology. Find me something we can use. And Amy? President Torres paused. Don't think like a scientist. Think like a human who's been told she can't protect her family. The meeting continued for hours as they planned humanity's response to the alien ultimatum. Nobody in that room knew if their plan would work, but they all knew one thing for certain. When someone threatened human families and told them to run away, humans had only one response: they got stubborn. Captain Jake Morrison looked out at the biggest collection of human ships he had ever seen. In just 2 weeks, Admiral Johnson had moved over 300 vessels into the disputed space region. Mining ships, cargo haulers, passenger transports, and even some old military vessels that had been sitting in storage. None of them could fight the Zephyrian ships, but that wasn't the point anymore. Jake was now commanding the entire fleet from his position on the Defiance. He stood on the bridge watching his crew work on their new mission. It wasn't like any military operation he had ever heard of, but then again, nobody had ever fought aliens before. "Captain," Karen said from her communication station, "the Zephyrian ships are following us again, same as yesterday." Jake smiled. The alien ships had been shadowing the human fleet for a week now, probably trying to figure out what the humans were planning. "Good. Tony, are you ready with today's program?" Tony Martinez grinned from his engineering station. "All set, Captain. I've got the speakers hooked up to broadcast on every frequency we can reach." "What are we playing today?" Danny asked. "I thought we'd start with some classic rock music, then move on to a cooking show about making pizza," Tony replied. "After that, I've got a recording of my grandmother telling jokes." Lisa looked up from her science station. "The aliens adjusted their communication frequencies again last night. They're trying to block us out." "Then we'll adjust too," Jake said. Karen switched to the light signals. Karen pressed some buttons and suddenly every human ship in the fleet began flashing their lights in patterns. The lights spelled out messages in Morse code. Some of the messages were polite, like "hello" and "how are you today?" Others were less polite, like "go away" and "you're not the boss of us." The Zephyrian ships responded by trying to block the light signals with some kind of energy field. The humans immediately switched to a new plan. The ships began flying in formation, arranging themselves to spell out words when viewed from above. The first word they spelled was humans. The second word was rule. Back on New Montana, Mary Kim was leading her own part of the operation. She was the elected leader of the colony's government, and she had decided that if Earth wanted them to expand human presence, she would do exactly that. "How many new settlements did we start yesterday?" she asked her assistant, Ben Cooper. 15, Ben replied, looking at his clipboard. "We've got teams building new houses, new farms, and even a new town. The construction crews are working around the clock." Mary nodded with satisfaction. "Good. And we're broadcasting all of this to the alien ships?" "Every minute of every day," Ben confirmed. "We're sending them live video of everything we're building, along with messages that say, 'Welcome to New Montana. Population growing every day.'" The Zephyrians had been watching the human expansion with what seemed like increasing confusion. Their ships appeared over the colony every day, probably expecting to see humans packing up and leaving. Instead, they saw more humans arriving and building bigger settlements. Back in space, Jake was preparing for the next phase of Operation Nuisance. That's what he had started calling their strange new kind of warfare. If they couldn't hurt the alien ships, they would at least make the aliens very, very annoyed. "Tony, how are those new modifications coming along?" Jake asked. Tony looked up from his workstation where he had been building what he called the stupidest weapons in the galaxy. He held up a device that looked like a party favor. "Captain, I've created something that will shoot glitter into space. Lots and lots of glitter." "Biodegradable glitter," Lisa added. "We don't want to pollute space permanently." "And what exactly will glitter do to their ships?" Danny asked. Tony grinned. "Absolutely nothing. It won't hurt them at all, but imagine trying to explain to your commanding officer why your advanced alien warship is covered in sparkly stuff." Jake laughed. "I love it. What else do you have?" "Well, I've modified some of our mining charges to create fireworks instead of explosions. Pretty colors, lots of noise but no actual damage, and I've programmed some drones to fly around their ships playing party music." Karen looked up from her station. "Captain, we're getting a transmission from the Zephyrian commander." "Put him on screen," Jake said. Commander Zektar's blue face appeared on the main display. He looked even more serious than before, if that was possible. "Human vessels, you will cease your ridiculous behavior immediately." "What ridiculous behavior?" Jake asked innocently. "We're just flying around in space, same as you. You are broadcasting primitive noise on all frequencies. You are creating unnecessary light displays. Your people on the planet's surface are expanding instead of preparing to leave. This is not logical behavior. Jake shrugged. Commander, I hate to break it to you, but humans aren't always logical. Sometimes we do things just because we feel like it. This makes no sense, the alien said. You cannot win against us. Your technology is inferior. Your weapons cannot harm our ships. Why do you persist in this foolish resistance? Because you told us not to, Jake replied simply. There was a long silence. Commander Zektar seemed to be trying to understand what Jake had just said. You are resisting because we ordered you to surrender? Pretty much, yeah, Jake said. See? That's the thing about humans. When someone shows up and starts making demands, we tend to get stubborn about it. The more you insist we have to do something, the more we want to do the opposite. This is illogical. Probably, Jake agreed. But it's also very human. The transmission ended and Jake turned to his crew. All right, people, let's show them what human stubbornness really looks like. Tony, launch the glitter drones. Karen, start broadcasting that recording of Earth's greatest hits. Danny, signal the fleet to begin formation flying. Within minutes, the space around the Zephyrian ships was filled with sparkly glitter, loud music, and human ships flying in patterns that spelled out increasingly creative insults. The aliens responded by trying to get away from the humans, but every time they moved, the human fleet followed them. Dr. Amy Walsh had been studying the alien ship readings from her laboratory on Earth. She had been working for days without sleep, trying to find some weakness in Zephyrian technology. Finally, she thought she had found something. She called Admiral Johnson immediately. Admiral, I think I've discovered something important about their ships. What did you find, Doctor? Their technology seems to work on harmonic frequencies. Everything is perfectly balanced and synchronized, but that might also be their weakness. What do you mean? Amy looked at her data again. If their systems rely on perfect harmony, then chaotic noise might disrupt them. All this random human behavior, the music, the shouting, the completely unorganized activities, it might actually be interfering with their technology in ways we don't realize. Admiral Johnson was quiet for a moment. Are you saying that our people being annoying might actually be causing them real problems? It's possible, Amy said. I need more data to be sure. But the readings suggest their ships are having minor system fluctuations whenever our people get particularly loud or chaotic. The Admiral smiled. Doctor, I think you just gave us the best news we've had all week. Keep studying those readings, and Amy, don't just think like a scientist, think like someone who's really annoyed and wants to make noise about it. The 30-day deadline had passed 3 hours ago. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the largest alien fleet he had ever seen appear out of nowhere. 200 Zephyrian ships materialized in perfect formation, their blue hulls gleaming in the starlight. Each ship was 3 times bigger than the largest human vessel. Well, Jake said to his crew, I guess they decided to show up for the party after all. Karen looked nervous as she watched her instruments. Captain, I'm reading massive energy buildups from all their ships. They're preparing weapons. How many human ships do we have in the area now? Danny asked. Lisa checked her computer. 612 vessels, sir. Every type of ship we could find. Cargo haulers, passenger ships, mining vessels, research stations, even some old pleasure craft. Jake smiled. Over the past month, instead of evacuating, humans had tripled their presence in the disputed territory. Every day, more ships arrived, carrying supplies, equipment, and people who refused to be scared away by alien threats. The main screen flickered to life, showing Commander Zektar's face. The alien looked even more serious than usual, and there was something new in his black eyes. Frustration. Humans, the commander said, his voice echoing through every ship in both fleets. Your time limit has expired. You were ordered to leave this territory. Instead, you have increased your presence here. This defiance ends now. Jake stepped forward. Commander, good to see you again. We've been having a great time out here. Hope you don't mind all the music and fireworks. Your behavior has been completely illogical, Zektar replied. You cannot defeat us in battle, you know this. Yet you remain here acting like children playing games. Hey now, Jake said with a grin. Some of our games are pretty fun. Tony, you still got that party music ready? Tony Martinez looked up from his station, where he had been preparing humanity's most ridiculous weapons. Always ready, Captain. We've added some new songs to the playlist. I think the aliens will especially enjoy the polka music. Commander Zektar's face showed what might have been confusion. You will surrender immediately, or we will destroy every human vessel in this region. Jake looked around at his crew. They all looked back at him with determined faces. These were people who had spent a month annoying aliens and having the time of their lives doing it. You know what, Commander? Jake said. I've got a better idea. Surrender? We're just getting started. Hey, Tony, hold my beer and watch this. Jake turned to Karen. Signal all ships. Execute Operation Playground. What happened next was the most chaotic thing the galaxy had ever seen. Every single human ship began doing something different and loud. Mining vessels started their rock-breaking equipment, creating thunderous noise. Passenger ships turned on their entertainment systems at full volume. Cargo haulers opened their bay doors and started playing different radio stations. The space around the two fleets filled with an incredible mixture of sounds. Country music mixed with classical symphonies. Children's songs played alongside heavy metal. News broadcasts competed with comedy shows. Sports announcers called imaginary games while cooking shows explained how to make pancakes. But it wasn't just music. The humans added every noise-making device they could find. Air horns, kazoos, bells, whistles, and sirens joined the symphony of chaos. Some ships played recordings of crowds cheering at sporting events. Others broadcast sound effects from old movies. And then there were the voices. Hundreds of thousands of humans began singing, shouting, laughing, and talking all at the same time. They sang national anthems, birthday songs, and made up chants. They yelled jokes, told stories, and recited poetry. Some people just screamed because they felt like it. The Zephyrian ships tried to move away from the noise, but the human fleet followed them everywhere they went. When the aliens moved left, the humans moved left. When they moved right, the humans moved right. When they tried to go up, the humans went up too, still making their incredible racket. Commander Zektar appeared on screen again, but now his perfect composure was cracking. Stop this noise immediately. Your primitive sounds are interfering with our systems. What's that? Jake shouted over the din. I can't hear you over all this awesome human music. Dr. Amy Walsh was watching everything from her laboratory on Earth. Her instruments were showing exactly what she had hoped to see. The chaotic human noise was creating interference patterns that were disrupting the alien technology. Admiral Johnson, she called on her communicator. It's working. The harmonic frequencies from all that noise are causing fluctuations in their shield systems. Their weapons are having targeting problems too. On the Defiance, Lisa was seeing the same thing on her science station. Captain, their energy readings are becoming unstable. Whatever we're doing, it's affecting their ships. Jake looked at the screen where Commander Zektar was trying to speak, but his image kept flickering and breaking up. The aliens' perfect technology was being overwhelmed by pure human chaos. All ships, Jake broadcast to the human fleet. Whatever you're doing, do it louder. The humans responded with enthusiasm. The miners increased their drilling sounds. The musicians played faster and louder. The singers sang with more energy. People banged on pots and pans. Children blew party horns. Adults made silly noises just because they could. Tony had been working on his secret weapon during all the chaos. Captain, he called out, I've got something special ready. Remember how Dr. Walsh said their technology works on harmony and balance? Yeah. What about it? Tony held up a device he had been building. I've created a machine that broadcasts pure, concentrated human stubbornness. It takes all the emotional energy of people being told they can't do something and amplifies it into radio waves. Jake stared at the device. You built a machine that broadcasts the feeling of being stubborn? Exactly. Every time a human has ever said, you can't tell me what to do, or watch me, or hold my beer, that emotional energy gets focused into a signal that should really mess with their systems. Tony, that's either brilliant or completely insane. Why can't it be both? Tony asked with a grin. Jake looked at the screen where Commander Zektar was struggling to maintain communication through all the interference. The alien ships were starting to move erratically, like they were having trouble controlling their flight systems. "Do it," Jake said. Tony activated his stubbornness broadcaster. Immediately, every Zephyrian ship began shaking. Their perfect formations broke apart as individual vessels started having system failures. The aliens' harmonic technology, designed for perfect order and balance, simply couldn't handle the concentrated essence of human defiance. Commander Zektar's final transmission was barely understandable through all the static and interference. What are you doing to us? This is impossible. Your primitive emotions are system failure, cannot compute." The alien fleet began retreating, but they were moving slowly and unsteadily, like ships that were barely under control. Jake watched them go and turned to his crew. "Well, that was easier than I expected." Karen looked at her instruments. "Captain, they're sending a message to other alien fleets. It's some kind of warning." "What does it say?" Karen listened to the translation coming through her equipment. "Warning to all Zephyrian vessels and allied species. Do not engage humans in direct confrontation. They are immune to reason, allergic to surrender, and their primary military strategy appears to be aggressive stupidity. Recommend immediate withdrawal and quarantine procedures." Jake laughed so hard he had tears in his eyes. "Aggressive stupidity. I like that. I think we should put that on our ships." The Zephyrian ships had been retreating for 2 hours, but they were moving very slowly. Their perfect technology was still struggling with all the chaos the humans had created. Captain Jake Morrison watched them on his screen and knew this wasn't over yet. "Captain," Karen said from her communication station, "I'm getting a new transmission from Commander Zektar. He sounds really angry now." "Put him on screen," Jake replied. The alien commander's face appeared, but his image kept flickering and breaking up. His blue skin looked darker than before, and his black eyes seemed to glow with frustration. "Humans," Zektar said, his voice crackling through the static. "You have caused enough chaos. We are prepared to destroy every single one of your vessels. This is your final warning. Surrender now or face complete annihilation." Jake looked around at his crew. They had been through so much together over the past month. They had discovered that humans could fight back against superior technology just by being themselves. "You know what, Commander?" Jake said with the biggest smile he had worn all day. "You want to see what happens when you tell humans they can't do something? Steve, hold my beer. All ships, execute Operation Playground." But this time was different. Instead of just making noise, every human ship began broadcasting something new. They played recordings of every time a human had ever been told they couldn't do something, and then did it anyway. The broadcasts included stories of humans climbing the highest mountains because someone said it was impossible. They played speeches from people who said humans would never fly, followed by recordings of the first airplane flights. They shared videos of experts saying humans could never go to space, followed by footage of astronauts walking on the moon. But the most powerful broadcasts were personal stories. Thousands of humans across the fleet shared their own experiences of being told they couldn't do something. A woman from New Montana told about being told she couldn't become an engineer because she was too small. A man from Earth shared his story of being told he couldn't learn to fly because he was too old. Children talked about being told they couldn't play certain sports because they weren't strong enough. Every story ended the same way. The human had ignored the person who said they couldn't do it, and they had done it anyway. Tony Martinez had been working on his stubbornness machine during the whole conversation. "Captain, I've made some improvements to the device. Instead of just broadcasting stubborn feelings, it now broadcasts the actual memory patterns of humans refusing to give up." "What does that mean?" Danny asked. "It means I'm sending them the concentrated essence of every time a human has ever said, 'Watch me,' or 'You're not the boss of me,' or 'Hold my beer,'" Tony explained. "Their harmonically balanced technology can't handle that much pure human defiance." Lisa looked up from her science station with excitement. "Captain, their shield systems are completely failing now. The weapon systems on their ships aren't working either. Whatever we're doing, it's overloading their entire fleet." Jake opened a communication channel to the entire human fleet. "Attention all ships. We've discovered something amazing today. It turns out that being human is actually a weapon. Being stubborn, refusing to quit, making noise when we're supposed to be quiet. And doing the opposite of what we're told isn't just annoying, it's our greatest strength. President Helen Torres was watching everything from Earth. She had been in communication with the fleet throughout the battle, and now she wanted to send her own message to the aliens. "Commander Zektar," she said, her voice being broadcast to both fleets. "This is President Torres of Earth. You made one mistake. You told humans to back down. That's like telling water not to be wet or fire not to burn. We don't back down, we double down. Every time." Commander Zektar tried to respond, but his communication system was failing. His words came through in broken pieces. "Cannot understand. Your species defies all logic. Systems failing. Retreat." The alien fleet was now moving away as fast as their damaged ships could travel. But Jake wasn't finished yet. He had one more message to send. "Commander," he called out, "before you go, I want you to understand something. You came here thinking you could scare us because you have better technology. But you forgot something important. Humans don't fight with just technology. We fight with heart, with stubbornness, and with the absolute refusal to be told what we can't do." Jake paused and looked at his crew, who were all grinning from ear to ear. "And Commander, if you or any other aliens ever want to threaten human families again, just remember this moment. Remember what happened when you told us to back off and we said hold our beer." The last Zephyrian ship disappeared into the distance, leaving the human fleet alone in space. For a moment, everything was quiet. Then Karen's communication station exploded with messages from all over the human fleet. People were cheering, laughing, and celebrating. Dr. Amy Walsh called from Earth with the scientific explanation for what had happened. The alien technology was designed for perfect order and logical thinking, she told Jake. When you exposed them to concentrated human emotion, especially the emotion of refusing to quit, their systems couldn't process it. It was like trying to run a computer program designed for mathematics on a machine that only understood poetry. 6 months later, the region of space that had once been called the Disputed Territory was now known throughout the galaxy as the Hold My Beer Zone. Human colonies had expanded throughout the entire area, and new settlements were being built every day. Captain Jake Morrison had been promoted to admiral and was now in charge of the new, Unconventional Response Division. His job was to handle any future alien encounters using humanity's newly discovered weapon of aggressive stubbornness. The first thing Admiral Morrison did in his new position was commission a new ship. The USS Hold My Beer became humanity's flagship for all first contact situations. Its mission statement, painted on the side of the ship in large letters, read, "Diplomacy through determination." The Zephyrians had petitioned the Galactic Council to declare humans a hazardous species due to what they called weaponized stubbornness. Other alien races began sharing stories about the strange species that had defeated superior technology by refusing to be logical. But the best part came a year later, when humanity received a new alien ultimatum from a completely different species. The Krolon Empire demanded that humans surrender all their mining rights in the Centauri system and submit to Krolon authority. Admiral Morrison read the ultimatum while drinking coffee in his office aboard the USS Hold My Beer. He smiled, pressed a button on his desk, and spoke into his communicator. "Attention all human vessels in the Centauri system," he announced. "We've got another group of aliens who think they can tell us what to do. You know what that means." The response from every human ship in the system was immediate and unanimous. "Time to hold our beer, Admiral." Jake Morrison leaned back in his chair and laughed. Humans had learned something important about themselves during the Zephyrian crisis. When faced with impossible odds and superior technology, humans had one advantage that no alien species could match. They were too stubborn to know when they were supposed to lose.